Yeah. You better believe it. We're back for 2023, the world's most bullish podcast, brought to you by Dr. Evil 10%, aka the People's Champ, Mr. All-In, aka the Trillion Dollar Man. That's him there. Trillion Dollar Energy. Myself, Sir Neverlook, aka the Excellence of Execution. And we start this year off as we finished last year. 2022 rolls into 2023, and she's nowhere to be seen. Mrs. No Show, first of the year, not here. Absence mark once again.
What have we got for our first show in 2023? It's a good one. We've got a lot of Bitcoin stuff. So we've got a bit of a callback to Merry Christmas from Jack Mallers. We've got something great from the OG Hal Finney, something we should all look to support. We're going to talk about that. We've got a great article from a Bitcoiner on Twitter about the 5 biggest developments in 2023 that he's excited for. We've got Saylor, the Giga Chad, selling Bitcoin. But then don't worry, he does buy more Bitcoin back. It's just tax harvesting.
Just testing.
Yeah, it's testing. We've got Russia getting involved in Bitcoin again. We've got the miners. They are feeling the pressure as a huge miner has gone bust. We've got Quadriga in the news. Some coins have started moving. We've got some breaking news that literally yesterday, OG Bitcoiner Luke Dash Jr. got hacked, lost over 200 Bitcoin. Discuss how the hell that happened and what was his reaction to doing that. I've now got my mum ringing me, so that is not part of it. We've got Inflation Weekly, as always. It's the US. They want to print another 1.7 trillion. Nothing says recession like America spending money. FTX sneak in there towards the end. Caroline's getting on here. Then we've got a nice comparison to the FIDC and FTX. How could those two be similar? Well, we'll tell you. And we've got Shitcoin Corner to end the week, where we've got ETH being delisted from a Bitcoin-only exchange, which is hopefully going to be a trend moving into 2023. Let's get these exchanges Bitcoin-only, get rid of the shitcoins. So yeah, full agenda and lots of Bitcoin content, which is nice. I think we need to try and do this. And I must admit, I don't know what you guys think about this, but my New Year's resolution, at least for this podcast anyway, is FTX and shitcoins. I don't really want to talk about them anymore. It's pretty boring, really, because we know what's going to happen, right? The shitcoins keep rebranding themselves. It's funny. People lose money. Celebrities get involved. FTX is going to continue for fucking years. And it's going to become this gossip thing that little snippets of information. We know what's going to happen, right? We know the guy's guilty. We know he's probably going to get off. Let's just let it happen and just concentrate on what's happening in Bitcoin. It's not, that's all shitcoin land. And I think we, over the years, and I must admit, I am very guilty of it, having put the agenda together a lot of the time. The shitcoin stories.
I was going to say, do you want to let the cat out of the bag? You do the agenda.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm saying now I'm going to be better because it's harder to find good Bitcoin stories. There's always a shitcoin blowing up, and now there's always been FTX stuff every week. It's easy to fill half the agenda fills itself by going, well, we'll do Inflation Weekly. Like we'll show the America printing money, we'll show a shitcoin scam exploding, and we'll show the latest on FTX. There's half the agenda done every week for the next 3 years. And it's like, that's lazy. Like we should be getting hard, like meaty Bitcoin content in there. That's what I'm going to try and do anyway. This, by the way, it starts next week because this agenda was written last year. So it's still going to have shit in it, but I kind of want to just make it.
I love a good story about a shitcoin.
I know you do.
Well, we can just talk about fiat and gold, can't we?
Yeah, I suppose those are.
I actually listened via audiobook, the book called The Great Devaluation. It's a guy called Adam Baratta. And it was all about gold. But all the principles, like 99.9% of everything that he said was accurate and true. And it was released just after COVID. So it was the bulk of it was written before, and then he was able to go back, talk to the publishers and say, look, so much has gone on. I need to update it. So they allowed him to do so. and it's fascinating about the content and the way that things are going and actually have gone, because he wrote a book before. He said when the next pandemic or epidemic happens, like 2008, this is what the world's going to do. And to a T, that's what we've gone and done. But he talks about it in the context of gold. So I think, unfortunately, we may cover the odd shitcoin here and there. We won't try to do it on purpose, but it'll always be there or thereabouts. But I think what I'd really love is for the audience participation. So drop a message, whether it's obviously via the medium that you listen to, from a streaming perspective, if it's YouTube or audio, and or obviously if you know us, get in touch and we'll just cover it.
I mean, it's funny, but I just feel like we're raising the profile sometimes of shitcoins too much, and it's just distracting.
What? Who doesn't want SHIB or Dink Donk?
Anyway.
Let's do it. Let's get straight into it, and let's just recap 2022 with Jack Mallers.
Yeah, it's a nice little interview. I think he's talking to Matt Odell in this short little video. It's 5 minutes long. 3 minutes is just the Christmas song saying Merry Christmas from a load of Bitcoiners. But I think what he says is just great, right? So he's been to Africa, and it wasn't necessarily a Bitcoin trip. And he just realized the difference between Africa and the West. And when you're in the West, everyone's talking about, are you vaccinated or not? Are you wearing a mask? Do you like Trump? Do you like Biden? Like we're worried about this petty kind of infighting. When you go to Africa, it's much bigger. The issues are bigger. It's just all about getting stuff done, because people don't have time to just talk about politics and what pronoun they are that week or how diverse a company is. They just worry about the company needs to work. I need to feed my family. Let's get going. And obviously Bitcoin is playing a part there as well. There's lots of people in Africa saving their money in Bitcoin because they can't trust, like not trusting your government and thinking your government is corrupt. You don't get called a conspiracy theorist in Africa when you do that. It's just, well, obviously they are. They've never had a not openly corrupt, like it's because it was very clever how they've been corrupt in the West, I think, because they still enough to make themselves stupidly wealthy, but not enough to make it the rest of the population are starving. But in Africa, they do that. They literally steal everything. But
was it Mugabe? Robert Mugabe.
Robert Mugabe, yeah.
So he was the president, was it Zimbabwe? And he was basically stealing money. And they announced that they were going to have a lottery, and you could only enter a lottery if you held your money in this state bank. And it had to be over some like $2,000 or 20 grand or something like that. And they had this lottery, and the head of the bank announced it on public television. And do you know who won?
Mugabe.
Yep.
You'd at least make it his brother or something, wouldn't you?
He don't give a shit.
14 million to 1. I'm the luckiest man on the planet.
But it's kind of going into what you're talking about. I've been listening for ages, it feels like, to Why Nations Fail, and it talks about extractive and inclusive. And I kind of get this feeling that we are definitely in the West. We're pretending we're still inclusive societies, but we're really not. We're extractive now. We're fully into extraction. We're extracting the wealth. They keep on printing money, which we'll cover in a story later on. And they're just closing regulations to ring fence various different industries, which is making it definitely extractive and not inclusive. But we are trying to show that we are by announcing pronouns and putting funding into LGBT and whatever else they are within this bill. But in reality, they're not. They're just doing it to hide the siphoning off of the money.
Just on this Jack Mallers trip to Ghana, I was just looking and researching there because a rapper who is pretty big, he used to date Nicki Minaj, and he's very close with Jay-Z, was in Ghana not so long ago. And I was just wondering if the two were linked, because I know Jack is a big hip hop fan. Doesn't seem like it is. But obviously Jay-Z with his links and affiliation to Jack Dorsey as well. I thought no doubt that there may be some sort of link, but doesn't seem to be the case. But what he says was something that he also said in terms of Meek Mill, which is the love and the brotherhood in Ghana and people just getting on with stuff. You know, he said he was overwhelmed. Like, he was surrounded by people to the point where his phone got taken, Meek Mill's phone got taken, but they loved him so much that they brought him back. So you've got to think, a third world country, someone could have sold that for a hell of a lot in terms of maybe, you know, a whole month's worth, or if not a year's worth of salary, and decided to give it back. And that just is a testament to what Jack was saying.
Because it just shows once you stop listening to your government, all the divide and conquer tactics that they use don't work. So that's why, because the West, we still largely trust in government, because if you don't, you're a conspiracy theorist, and no one wants to be that. So people do listen. So when they do the race baiting, they turn black against white, men against women, gays against straight, religions against each other, whatever you are, like they divide and conquer and get us all infighting on purpose. So you don't look up and fight the government, which is the real reason why people are struggling, is because their money is being worth less and less and less. It's nothing to do with blacks against whites and women against men. That's all a distraction. And it's nice when you go to a third world country, those governments are still trying that stuff. They're still blaming immigrants. They're still blaming Russia. They're still blaming external factors. But the people just don't even listen anymore, because they know how corrupt they are. They know where all the money went. It went into their pocket. So they just get on with it. And the communities are much closer knit. They're not infighting. They're not doing all this absolute nonsense that we spend so much time doing, because we're fighting each other when the real enemy is the people pushing these narratives into our day-to-day lives. And literally to the point where they're making it regulation to make companies care about this stuff. So they're pushing it into our work. Even if don't care about it in your social life, they make your company care. They ask, how many of various diversities do you have? What's the pay for women and men? It's a matter of time. So they start splitting it by race, by whatever, by age. And they're just trying to go, how many different battles can we just start? And whilst they're infighting, we'll just steal the money from the top anyway, and they won't even realize until it's too late.
Yes.
Is it Ghana or Nigeria? Well, it's one of the West Coast where they tried to introduce a kind of start off of a CBDC, and all people just refused to use it, didn't they?
I think it was Nigeria.
The adoption rate was absolutely minimal, because they're like, why the fuck would we use this? And it is that question. I think it was one of the high ups in the Fed who just said, why would we use this? It has no benefits. If you want to helicopter people money, you can do it via PayPal, Venmo, even via the current bank systems. There's no advantage to going to a CBDC except to gain control. And this is someone who really shouldn't have said that. And then I think the other one was they tried to introduce digital ID in one of the countries again. No one adopted it. They went, why the fuck am I going to use this?
Yeah, they don't trust the government. They don't want any of that stuff. They just know it's going to be used against them.
Whereas I feel like if they tried to introduce it in the UK, everyone would welcome up and said, I'm going to get helicoptered money. And it's just like, where's that money? So like the Pierre, what's his name, from Canada, where's that money come from? Where does the money come from? And I think a lot of people are so financially illiterate that they wouldn't even consider that, and we just get stolen from again.
Yeah, well, Nigeria, according to a report, is second for Bitcoin trading behind the US. So they understand the beauty of Bitcoin. And so the government actually tried to ban it, and obviously tried to push CBDCs, and they were like, nah, not on our watch. So yeah, you're absolutely right.
My favorite African country.
Yeah, it will only just continue more and more so. And of course, you've got to remember that in Africa, and obviously Nigeria was talking about it, they're digital first. So they will quickly adopt this type of technology. And it's interesting that there are other kind of African countries trying to continue to ban it. And the article goes on to name Egypt, Turkey, and Ghana clamping down on crypto trading because they see it as beyond their regulatory controls. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's because it really, if you actually look at if you like Steelman a CBDC, it's supposed to help the unbanked. It's supposed to reduce transaction fees. So a third world country where people can't afford bank accounts, or like it's not financially beneficial to have bank accounts for everyone, and the transaction fees are prohibitive, a CBDC would be fantastic there. So why wouldn't they just embrace it? Because in reality, none of those things are really removed. All it comes with is extra surveillance and an even bigger reliance on government. And those people do not trust their government as far as they can throw them. So they almost don't want bank accounts. They don't want a CBDC. They want to keep their money in various apps and in Bitcoin and anything that's a private company that is not connected to their government, because they know the second it is, it gets stolen. And so it's almost like a perfect little example of where CBDCs do not do what they say on the tin. They are just purely here to steal your money faster.
They're programmable. Basically, they're like Ethereum. It gets changed on a whim and it will be used against you. You can guarantee it. Even if for some reason it's created for a good purpose, it is completely malleable and it'll be turned against you. And you can guarantee that. And there's no key benefit to a CBDC coming in. It's not going to stop inflation. If you get gifted it, you're going to get punished 10 times worse. And that happened in America. They all got really excited when they got their $800 stimmy checks. And then they're seeing 30-40% inflation.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got $800 in one hand and got thousands and thousands stolen out of the other hand every year for the next 10 probably, or in exchange for a one-off $800 payment. If you move on to the ALS Golden West chapter.
Let's do it.
So we've got a running Bitcoin challenge. It's from the 1st of Jan to the 10th of Jan. And essentially what it is it's for Hal Finney. Hal Finney was, for anyone that doesn't know, the first guy ever to receive a Bitcoin transaction. And it is Bitcoin's birthday today. So this is
literally when that definitely, yeah.
This is when the transaction happened, on the launch of Bitcoin. And the first transaction done on January 3rd was to Hal Finney, from Satoshi to Hal Finney. And obviously he died. He died shortly after, I think in 2013. So it's about the 10-year anniversary of Hal passing. And he died of ALS, which is the Ice Bucket Challenge one. It's a very fast degenerative illness, very, very cool on people that get it. But he loved running, Hal. I don't know if you've seen the picture of Hal running. He's got fucking big, beefy legs. Yeah. So his wife has set up a charity that basically says, how about every year at the beginning of Jan, we do a run. He loved half marathons. So she's suggesting 13 miles or 21 kilometers, which is a nice number. 21 kilometers with obviously 21 million Bitcoin. And just run it either all at once or over the 10 days, however you want. And then, put yourself on here. I'm not sure I'll be doing the running. I hate running, but I'll definitely be donating to the people that already have. Because I think it's a great cause. All the money goes to the ALS Foundation. So it's not technically going to Bitcoin per se, but it's going to honor Hal Finney's name. And literally, if people like Hal Finney didn't exist, Bitcoin wouldn't exist. So, and he's one of the good guys. So I just thought it'd be a good place just to raise some awareness for this charity. And if you've got a few sats going spare, then maybe throw them this way.
Definitely, you can walk, run, hike, or roll, as it says. So I love it. I can easily do that. I was out this morning running. I did a bike ride on the first of the month and the first of the year. So myself and Dr. Evil 10%, we've got our own little mini challenge going on, haven't we? With regards to we want to do 1,000 miles this year in total, along with 12 books, physical, and 12 audios as well. So yeah, we'll keep
52
you guys
bike
posted.
rides as well.
Yeah, 52 bike rides. Wow,
A
he's
lot.
killing me, but he's pushing it, and I love it. So yeah.
Well, this is probably the influence of David Goggins.
Don't follow that guy. The man's a fucking machine.
Yeah, but yeah, it's good. Good cause. I'm looking at the actual donation page, but it is asking for details. I'm like, why can't I just fucking donate?
I think you can. You donate with sats.
Yeah, maybe just drop me it and I'll put it through my Lightning wallet.
Cool. Okay, let's talk about Lightning and some of the 5 exciting Bitcoin developments. Fantastic link there. So, how do you say his name? Pipelia?
Yeah.
In terms of so claims that he spent over 500 hours over the last 6 months in terms of studying how Bitcoin will change the world. And based on his study, has come down to 5 key things that we all need to be aware of that will be key for 2023 and beyond. So we've got the Lightning Network. I'm just trying to work out the graph. So the Lightning Network, sovereign computing, ION protocol, Fedimint.
Yeah, so he's called it, I think he's called the sovereign computing's a Web 5, and then value for value, Fedimint, and I'm just trying to pick out what the other one is.
Yeah.
It's sovereign computing.
Oh, so it's actually something else.
So yeah, value for value, Fedimint. Is it the Chain eCash? Chain eCash? No, it can't be that, or is it?
I think it's the sovereign computing. I got mixed up on what it was because I actually managed to misreading that one. But I think some of it's interesting to have a read through. But I think there's some bits which I don't fully understand. So I was looking forward to discussing this. So we've got Lightning, which we're aware of. It's kind of like the Visa network for Bitcoin. So you can't move around the gold on chain, so you're using Lightning instead. And some of the things which I picked out from this was watchtowers. I thought it was a really interesting term about how the security within the Lightning network is made. So someone may try and scam you by not completing a transaction, but actually there'll be other nodes which will be watching over as the watchtowers, making sure the transactions go through correctly. So I thought that was really interesting that that's in place. And then also another bit which I learned was, well, actually, I think it's just reiterating the point to me because I've been reading a lot about Lightning, is onion routing as well. So the traditional way which Lightning works is channel to channel. So it's literally we'll set up a channel between us, but I think it's just time consuming, or is it resource consuming to set up a channel?
You've got to fund it with sats.
Yeah.
So it costs money to open up a channel. You've got to put your sats in it.
Whereas onion routing is actually using a Google map to try and so if you've got a channel set up with someone, you can just use onion routing in order to kind of like take a diversion round to the person who you may not be directly connected to. Is that correct?
I'd have to read how he is describing that. But the way that I've used Lightning before is you have to open up a channel as normal, but you just use onion routing on top of that, which gives you all the privacy. Because otherwise, from your Lightning router, all the connections would be essentially public. So you could see who is connecting with your router, but use Onion. So when your node goes onto the network, no one knows whose node it is. And also everyone connecting to you also uses Onion. So you don't know who's connecting to you. All you know is that transactions are happening. But you don't know who and from, which gives a lot of the privacy that Lightning has. It's genuine privacy. You can't just open up these nodes and kind of find it all out after the fact, because they've all just been wrapped in onion routing, which completely anonymizes
because
it.
my understanding is it basically plans out a route. So say there's 8 different nodes or whatever to pass through, and it goes to the next one. The next node only gets told which node to pass it to.
Yeah.
So
it's through Tor. It's an optional feature, but the node that I have, you'd be stupid to switch it off. I think it's a little bit slower to just get configured because obviously it's going anonymous, and I think sometimes it actually would benefit the network for scalability to not do it because the network has more visibility of what's going on and who's where. But then in exchange for that, you lose privacy. So it's one of those things where we go, well, it's better to make the network be slightly slower and more clunky, but if every single node is private, because we don't want this to essentially be a bit like the internet, right? So everyone essentially, the internet is decentralized, right? Everyone can fire up a server, but you do anything wrong from your server, it's very easy to find out who did it. You just go straight to the IP address. You can see everything that server did. That's very damaging. You don't want that to happen in Bitcoin, especially in Lightning. So we wrap everything with Tor and then use Onion to communicate. So essentially the network. That's why when people look at the network and go, how many nodes are there and all that type of stuff, everyone's kind of guessing because a lot of it's just completely private. It's very hard to get any stats out of the network because it's all happening completely under the hood. Yeah.
But I think
so. We're going to see more Lightning in 2023.
It's going to evolve, isn't it? I mean, it's got to improve. I think we mentioned it a number of weeks ago, but the financial system is being rebuilt on Bitcoin, which is, why we're seeing some things in its infancy. Lightning is still in its infancy. It's still going to improve.
Yeah. The great thing is you guys need to get your Lightning nodes out and stuff because as standard, I'd used Tor a little bit, but experimented with it. And then my day-to-day web browsing is not through Tor. It's all completely tracked. So if anyone wants to look through my kind of browsing history and stuff, it's completely open. So I'm open to attack there from whoever wants to do that. Whereas once I went into Lightning World, I now use Tor all the time through there because it's just been built. The people that have built the product built it as standard. And when we know you're not going to do this, you should. But, and I've seen this right back when I first got into Bitcoin, they went, run your own node, put Tor on it. And I'm like, how the fuck do you do all these things? I don't fucking know. But then I bought some Lightning nodes out of the box. They all had Tor already in. So once I fired it up and started firing out Lightning transactions, I'm now using a really advanced setup. And I don't really know how it works. It's just, I know Tor is now in it. So I'm private by design. And I think that's going to be hopefully one of the continuing trends, really, that we just continue to build products as standard with privacy out of the box, that the user doesn't need to switch on or off. It's just bake it in. We all want our transactions private. Let's just do it. And Lightning's a great example where it's the most private payment network in the world.
I think you hit the nail on the head there, private by design, because users will then just inherently just adopt it and pick it up. So you have to, lead everybody there. I kind of said to somebody else the other day, just talking, as we always do, about Bitcoin, when it just becomes super easy, seamless, and you don't even know that you're using it, similar to you're tapping your card on contactless, it'll be exactly the same. The only difference is that it'll be sats that you're spending and sending. I was laughing as I read through his analogy of it's simple to explain to a 5-year-old because mine didn't get it when I tried to explain it, and I was just like, maybe he needs to kind of think about it again. But as he said, probably best with drawings.
Yeah. What do you think of the Web 5 stuff? Because I first saw this and I instantly got triggered and went, "Oh, we've got a fucking shitcoiner," and I missed it. But
Web 5 is it. Didn't we talk about this the other week about Lightning? Was it Lightning wallets being used as like logins, kind of like a federated identity but decentralized? So they're not storing your details, but your wallet kind of shares a key. That's what I took from this.
Yeah, I think that's what he means by it. I don't know why he's called it Web 5, because the second you call it Web 5, I think scam. Because
Yes.
we're on Web 2 right now, because Web 3 did not get delivered. So I don't know where that went.
Wasn't Web3 was meant to be all the shitcoinery, wasn't it?
But it's the metaverse and all that kind of AI, artificial intelligence, and
And NFTs
virtual
are meant
reality.
to be part of it.
Yeah, we're meant to be in a metaverse now. And so that's a big fucking shift, right? And we didn't move to that. And somewhere Web 4 just got binned. And instead of just adding a number, now we add 2 and 3 together. Now we're in 5. And so I don't know how so I don't like the fact that he's going, oh, Bitcoin enables Web 5, because straight away I go, well, that's bollocks. I'd rather he just go, don't give it a name really, and just go, yeah, Lightning will enable you to have a decentralized identity that you could log in and out that can be trusted and isn't attributable to your real life identity. That sounds good. I'm still skeptical at the moment. I don't think that will probably happen this year. It's just way too much of a big stretch, because to make this useful, obviously we worked in this environment, and the biggest challenge is getting people to use this stuff, right? And so to get people to, there's going to be some Bitcoin websites that might use it, that don't need login, and you can just send them a SAT and verify a transaction or sign something using your Lightning wallet. Absolutely. But that might happen this year. But to think it's going to roll out any wider than that, and if you're logging in and out of a bank or a social network using a Lightning wallet, I think is, unfortunately, they're dreaming. They think that's going to happen this year. Could happen in 5 years.
Yeah, exactly that. I think personally, just class it along the same lines as the Lightning Network. That in the background, it will get stronger and better, but in terms of it going to the masses and being adopted by everybody, and there's going to be some big explosion in 2023, I'm not sold on it.
No. And then don't call it Web 5. This, because it's like straight away you almost assume that like we're in a metaverse using Lightning now, and you go, well, why are we in there? Let's just, can I just use it in the real world, please? Can I use it on my phone now and on the web and my desktop? That's why I want to use it, because that's what I use. I haven't got a fucking headset on walking around in my fake world, because that world's still decades away.
Yeah.
But I've heard a lot of people talking about Fedimint as well.
I've never heard of it until I read this.
Never, me neither.
I kind of when I saw Fedimint, I'm like, Fed? Is that what it's from?
Yeah, well, I think they definitely are playing on the fact that it's got the word Fed in it, but it's supposed to be making self-custody much easier, and they're open sourcing it. I think that's what this is. So I think it's a massive open source project, which enables people to basically go, let's just write a load of self-custody products and just open source it. So a lot like the first 10 million of developer effort that is required to get a secure self-custody wallet, they're going, we're just going to do it and then open source it. So if you wanted to grab this and put your own slant on it, then great, go knock yourself out. So it's suddenly the barrier for entry for doing your own self-custody wallet should be greatly reduced, because you don't have to do the source code yourself. You can just grab it from here, and then just put it into a device, I guess, or create a wallet, whatever you want.
My kind of understanding about this, maybe I completely got it, but it's almost a bit of an extension on Lightning. So they're utilizing it. So it's bringing in almost a bit of a credit facility, an extension of the Visa network, so you can send and receive funds without actually having them. So it's kind of like having trust within the network.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah, that's where the Fed bit comes from. They're going to be the Fed, but for...
So it's kind of, I think it's when... So my interpretation was, say, in places like Africa where there's shit mobile signal, it would be using minimal packets in order to trigger a transaction off, which would be then done by someone else's wallet, by kind of like, I forgot what we call it, like a bank of your mom, your friends or community. So about that central person. So it sounds like an idea. It's kind of like that extension to financial networks, but admittedly, I didn't think of too many use cases. And by the time which Bitcoin becomes wholesale, I'd say, well, surely things like decent network coverage will be there anyway. So I think there's going to be a jump in that kind of like technology as it is.
Well, we already saw it with the release, well, the pod just before, our last pod of 2022, Ledger introducing Ledger Stacks. So I think there's going to be a huge market for self-custody and making that a lot easier. Whether or not you're then going to use, as it says in the article, a group of guardians or a trusted third party to be that central party to hold it for everyone, I'm not too sure.
It's saying it's decentralized, but it's decentralized away from you, which is kind of like, which is a kind of risk. So it's, I think it's aiming at like those kind of like poor network areas. So, how are you going to use Bitcoin if you haven't got internet? And therefore you'd be able to use this kind of third party, send a minimal packet to it, it then triggers a transaction, sends it off. But you have to make sure that you've either got trust or credit or something like that.
Yeah, for me, I think when things start to really take off and hyper Bitcoinization happens, the greed of man, which we've seen over the course of time, will always take over. So whilst it says it's harder to corrupt, I think there is there's a weak link in there of corruptibility that could happen. So I get it, but I wouldn't necessarily put it down as the big one.
It could be angling on something along the lines of what we saw as an initial design via what's Jack Dorsey's company called?
Block.
Block. So where he talked about there's a key with the bank, there's a key with the device, and the other key is the person. So it could be voice, iris, whatever else. So that could be how it works. So said bank can never get it out. But then, as we saw in the, 40s, oh yeah, we'll just change this. It's more secure if we can move it around.
Yeah, this does look good actually. This, because what it's replacing now that I've read their wiki a little bit is, at the moment, if you want to run Lightning, most people won't run their own node, right? They don't know how to buy a node. It's quite expensive. Also, you've got to be relatively technical and really into Bitcoin to do it. So what you'll do is you'll download a Lightning wallet, which is fully custodial on whoever runs that, right? So if that wallet wants to steal your funds, they can. The apps do what the code says, and if the code says send all the money out, the money goes. So what we know we need to do in Lightning is get more self-custody. So what they've done here is created an open source kind of network that allows you, as part of a community, to link in and essentially one person to run a node and then allow others to use it as well. So you still have risk that the person that you are working with steals the money, but you've removed the risk at the moment is that the top level app that you're using steals your money. So that's a big honeypot there. Whereas these ones are much smaller ones. And with Lightning, you shouldn't have more than 10 to 50 pounds of money in there at any one point. It should be what's in your wallet. So if you're running that between you and, say, a couple of dozen people, there shouldn't be more than £1,000, probably max at any one point. So the risk of stealing there should be relatively small, you would hope, because it's not like they're going to get a big windfall from it. And it's just trying to make, I think, self-custody, because what we need to do, what's happening in Lightning is, even though it can be completely decentralized, there's only a few wallets that people use. So it's centralized behind them. So we need to make a way of decentralizing it. And if something like this can take off in communities of hundreds of people all have their own instance of Fedimint, then suddenly now Lightning's a lot harder to shut down, because you can't just go after like Blue Wallet and a couple of the others and cut off 50% of the transactions on Lightning because you've gone after the biggest wallets. Because people that run their own nodes will be fine. But if you're relying on a wallet that just works on your iPhone, Apple could just ban Lightning on their platform and it's just gone. Whereas if you're using something like this, you could just carry on as normal and you wouldn't even know Apple did anything. So it's got big potential. I can see why people have been talking about it so much, because this is the type of thing that needs to take off for Lightning to really go mainstream.
So I think what it talked about was Lightning as a highways. So I'm guessing that the Bitcoin on chain is like the airways, and then inside each town are hundreds of smaller roads, which is where Fedimint hits it.
There you go.
So because you kind of got the joins, you have all these people who are using Fedimint, the kind of like smaller, the smaller users, and it kind of joins everything together.
Yeah. It actually makes perfect sense for the network, actually, when you think about it, because a lot of the transactions that people do will be in their community. And then occasionally you will obviously interact with people around the world. So that's where the Lightning Network works for that. But it can be optimized for people that you transact with a lot. So you can set those channels up and make them super efficient and make them super fast, make sure they don't fail. And so that would just do that. That would, in your town, when you go out and do your shopping, pay your bills, do whatever, you could be guaranteed that your Lightning transactions will work and be super cheap there. Then when you're buying stuff online, that's when, is there a Lightning connection between me and that merchant yet? And sometimes there isn't. And sometimes you need to open one and it can be a bit laborious. But that's an early adopter problem, when it's like we're in the point where we're the first couple of people to have an email address. And we're like, I haven't got anyone's email yet. It's like, don't worry, they're coming. Like, then everyone will have an email address soon enough. And
And this kind of goes back to the point that it's a whole financial structure is being rebuilt, but better.
Yeah. And it's just the fact that it's super early, isn't it?
Yeah. It's just great though. Just whenever you see stuff like this, you just go, because how can you even turn that negative really? It's very hard whenever you look at Bitcoin developments to go, how is this enriching one guy at the top? It's very hard to see it. Everything's being built. Like, that's an open source platform. They're trying to get small communities to be decentralized and running their own Lightning networks. You go, what's the scam here? And it's very hard to see one. It's just genuinely trying to bring Bitcoin to more people. That's what nearly every single Bitcoin initiative ends up being. And even if you try and go, let's be super cynical and super negative, how can I turn this where it's just fiat wrapped up in an SBF wrapper, where he's trying to be all virtuous and let everyone think that he's doing a great thing, but really he's just enriching himself. You go, no, I can't see where the people running that make money. And they're just doing it to expand the use of Bitcoin. I guess you could be super skeptical and go, if this takes off, then their Bitcoin holdings will be worth more. So they are enriching themselves there. So that is true. Obviously, if Bitcoin takes off, all Bitcoiners become very rich. So I guess you can always throw that at us. But
I think really good to chat that one through, because it's made a lot more sense after talking about it than we're just reading about it.
Yeah, I didn't get it at all when I first read it, and now I do. Yeah.
And then the next one is value for value. So this one is, if you take a service, you can either contribute, you can promote it, or give sats. So I'm kind of like thinking, is it the insinuation like micropayments?
Probably. But I don't know why you didn't just say micropayments.
Because I kind of looked at this and went, well, surely you can do most of those anyway at the moment. If you like someone's article or their stuff, you can say, I'll contribute in order to use your subscription, or I can promote it on my whatever it is.
Yeah, I think it is. It is micropayments via tipping, and it does. And obviously, as the price of a sat is still absolutely tiny. So you could just, as every time you like a tweet or read an article, you could drop 1 or 2 sats to someone. Whereas at the moment, that's impossible. But the whole micropayments thing, that's been rumored to be a Bitcoin kind of innovation for forever. And obviously tipping and stuff on Lightnings does the rounds. It's all a bit of a fad.
I mean, you can do tipping now on certain sites. Like I see it all the time on YouTube, but obviously it's not micropayments. So it is there. Will it take off? Who knows?
And we did it on Lightning. We did it when Lightning first launched in, was it 2018, 2019? That's when all the tipping on Twitter went crazy.
Yeah.
And people were tipping each other for various tweets, just a couple of sats here and there. But it kind of came and it went. And because it's just, why do I want to do this all the time? It was just a bit of a, and we had the lightning torch that Hodlnaut started, where he started it, I think, with 100 sats or something, and then it went to 200, 300, 400. And people passed it all around the world past the lightning torch. And but yeah, once those kind of viral hype things kind of die off. So yeah, I think a lot of the things he says in this article, I think they are all good. Are they going to happen in 2023? Probably not. I think the main takeaway for me really is Lightning's going to continue to just be good. It's just, I don't think we don't need to create new use cases. I don't think all we need to do is just go, what do we use today for fiat? We're going to use it with Bitcoin, and it's going to be private and cheaper, and you're going to be free from inflation. I think the second we start inventing these new use cases for a new way of people using the internet and stuff, I think you start to go, right, now we need to get people to use a new payment method on a new thing that they've never done before. And the difficulty level just goes to 100. Instead, you just go, what do we do today that people are very used to doing? Now just switch Bitcoin in. That's still super hard, but you're just changing one of the factors. When you change both, I just go, you're going to get some Bitcoiners do that, but you're not going to get the masses doing it.
I mean, they're already, put off by this magic internet money itself. So,
which boils the oceans,
of course.
Yeah, and now we're asking them to give me 3 sats to read my article. They're going to go, what the fuck is this? They're so far away because they're not even used to micro tipping in fiat yet. So because like the YouTube tipping you talked about, I think the minimum is £1, because it has to be, because the fees are 20p. So yeah. Anyway, should we move on to MicroStrategy?
Let's do it. Monsieur Saylor, once again, doing what he does best, but this time with a little twist. So December 22nd, he sold 710 Bitcoin. Am I right in thinking? Off the top of my head, I'm not reading the article.
704.
Sorry?
704 Bitcoin.
704 and then bought 810.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. So 2 days later, bought 810 Bitcoin. And I'm thinking this is because it's a taxable event to reduce the MicroStrategy company's taxes, and therefore showing it as a loss, because the year of 2022, there is no bones about it. If you bought at the beginning of the year, you would have unfortunately lost money.
Yeah, and it surprises me actually that the Bitcoin he supposedly sold here, it says he where is it? I think he brought it at around 21.
16.7.
That's what he sold it for, I think.
Yeah.
But it reckons they brought. I know it says in June. Yeah. So what I would imagine what they're selling here is going to be last in, first out, because we know that MicroStrategy brought a load at the top. So they were the top. Saylor pretty much bought the 69,000 Bitcoin. Not many people bought Bitcoin for that much, but Saylor was one of them. And so it wouldn't surprise me if he's got a load of Bitcoin there that is at 69,000. So he's just gone, well, fuck it. I've got loads of profits in my company. Obviously, MicroStrategy is still a profit-making company. It's got a load of Bitcoin on its balance sheet. So it does make sense for them just to go, well, fuck it. We've got massive millions and millions of loss here sat in Bitcoin. We might as well just take the loss, write it off on our profits. So we have to pay less tax on our MicroStrategy profits, then just buy the Bitcoin back anyway. And we're good to go. So they topped up a little bit extra as well. And they added an extra 106 Bitcoin on top. So it makes perfect sense. So Saylor's just making sure the taxman gets less money off him because he's writing off his tax losses, or he's writing off his gains by tax loss harvesting some Bitcoin here. It's slightly worrying that he had it on hand to sell it, that's the thing, that the red flag for me, because he did say, never sell this. This is going to be, he's never selling. That's his famous quote, right? Never. And he did sell. He purely sold to buy more, but he did sell. So slightly worrying, I think, from Saylor, but we'll allow it, I guess.
Yeah, the Giga Chad. Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? But this is from a company perspective, and their company strategy from 2021 was not only to obviously sell services online, but to buy and hold Bitcoin. This is, I guess, a process of buying and holding Bitcoin from a tax perspective too.
Yeah. Yeah, to be fair, for that strategy, it's worked, doesn't it? He's acquired more Bitcoin, so.
Yeah. Okay. The next story that we've got here, I've just been logged out. Have you got the agenda up still?
Yeah, it is Russia to legalize international trade in Bitcoin and crypto in January. Head of Congress Finance Committee announces. So that's pretty big, all right? So
yes,
is it part of BRICS? I wonder.
Yeah, it could well be. But as we know, right, Russia's got loads of sanctions against it. There's loads of countries that are banned from doing international trade with them. And there are a lot of banks that are making it difficult. Even if you don't care about the sanctions, just doing business with Russia is difficult. And so it's interesting that they've gone, we're open for business in Bitcoin from January. So if you want to buy our oil or gas, whatever you want, then yeah, maybe there is problems with some countries getting the money to them. So they've gone, send it some Bitcoin. No one can block that. So
there was a speech that he said, and I'm going to try and quickly find it, because it was, I forgot who I was listening to, but they pretty much said that it was like Satoshi Nakamoto came and said it and wrote it himself. If I can find it, I will then. Yeah, he says something along the lines of, today the system of international payments is expensive, with correspondent accounts and regulation controlled by a small club of states and financial groups. Based on the technologies of digital currencies and distributed ledgers, it is possible to create a new system for international payments and much more convenient, but at the same time, completely safe for participants and completely independent of banks and interference from third countries. Therefore, pretty much talking about Bitcoin, because that's it. They were thinking about creating their own money. They don't need to create their own digital money because it's already there. It already exists, and it's called Bitcoin.
And it's inclusive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the comments where a lot of the comments are just going, Russia is obviously branded as one of the least inclusive countries in the world. They're supposed to be warmongering, just don't care. Yet they're the one open to going, look, we'll use Bitcoin. But other countries are moving to try and ban it. They're slandering it, trying to put people off it. Russia are supposedly the bad guys. Why are they open to using Bitcoin then? Why are they fine with it? Why is Europe and America so against it? Yeah. Because they're the ones that stand the most to lose if Bitcoin wins.
Well, they're not embracing it like most, are they?
Well, yeah, any big fiat organization is not going to embrace Bitcoin. It's like a taxi driver embracing Uber. You're embracing your downfall. You're embracing your replacement, the smarter, faster, cheaper version of what you do. Of course you're going to fight it. It's perfectly natural. It's a shame when it is literally the foundation of our society, which is money. When that gets replaced, there's a lot of people to fight that. No matter how corrupt it is, even the people being abused by it will fight to keep it because they hate change.
I mean, the indoctrination, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, they'll fight to stay in that prison. They don't want to go outside. But then, we've got a miner here. So this is the sad side of Bitcoin in the bear market. It's a giant Bitcoin mining company. Scientific.
So can I question, like, they're going into administration or bankruptcy. Does it happen every cycle? Because, they're making loads of money, electricity and so on. I mean, you hit this big dip. Does it always happen?
I haven't seen it happen this badly before. I think last time, to be fair, it's up until now, up until this cycle, a lot of the mining was centralized in China. So I think they just ran really tight ships, and maybe we were probably a bit immune to maybe these mining companies going bust, because we did see hash rate come and go. So as the cycles go in the bear market, you see the hash power drop. So yeah, you do see miners dropping off. They do go bust. So there is a constant cleansing of the market. But I think this cycle is exceptional in the amount of miners that have gone bust, because I think the West really got Bitcoin. And I think there's a lot of VC funding got Bitcoin as well. And they invested a lot in mining companies. And obviously these mining companies they can take years to set up once you've raised the funding, acquire all the equipment, buy the plan and get all the air cooling and all that stuff sorted. By the time you got all that up and running, you got huge costs. And then it's a horrible combo of a bear market plus the cost of energy has gone up by 3 times. So everyone's business models have just been set on fire. So I think there's a lot more bankruptcies happening because of what I just explained there.
Okay.
Because it'll be the cost of energy. That's probably the biggest thing.
I was going to say before, it's the cost of energy that is really the kicker. Beforehand, it wasn't as bad. And I don't think that we were as exposed to energy so much as we have been in 2022. Because, at the beginning of the year, February 24th is when obviously the tanks rolled over into the Ukraine. We weren't thinking about energy at that point in time.
We were.
And
the energy went up before that.
Not to the extent that it has. Obviously, in Europe, it's doubled in price.
I want to say that it had already hit about 90% of the total before.
Do you mean oil in terms of energy? Or
no, I'm talking like gas, electricity, because
electricity.
I remember the bills went through the roof in like November, December.
Like things like petrol and stuff, that's still 50% up, isn't it? That will happen.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, Russia did contribute towards it, but it wasn't the majority, which people seem to forget.
And of course. When we say energy went up, it went up in value because like they blaming COVID and they blame Putin. We know it's not that. We know it's just inflation catching up, and it's a fake scarcity of supply.
Because in the UK we have price controls, and the price control broke. It took down companies, and they had to increase it. It went up dramatically, and then literally 2 months later we had the Russia-Ukraine conflict, which then took it up by a bit more.
Yeah, but and all it was doing was catching up with inflation. Yeah, we'd kept it behind inflation for so long.
Yeah, for about 2-3 years or so.
You took the lid off it, let it double, and then you put the lid back on and go, "Oh, that was Putin's fault," and then let it increase by 2 or 3% again. And guess what's going to happen every decade? You have to let the lid off. It doubles again, because that's really what inflation is doing to the price. But they need a big reason to blame someone. And because the thing is, like the whole Putin thing, like that will come and then it will go, and the prices will not go down. We all know that. It's just, but forever people will get accustomed to this is how much it costs to heat your home now. This is how much it costs to put petrol in your car, and in this example, this is how much it costs to run a mining company. And it's just. But if anything, as we always know with Bitcoin always finds the best way to survive. It's like a
cockroach.
Literally, like it's evolution. It's like its own little being. It's alive. And yeah, so when it dies here, so these companies that have set up and that are going bust, they will be reliant on probably a lot of very normal energy that the average person get hold of. So the companies that will survive are the ones that are generating their own energy. They're using waste energy, or they have very cheap energy somewhere that is immune to these type of price hikes that we've
I think
seen.
we touched upon it. Was it last week or a week? Well, sorry, before Christmas. In that, I think we talked about say nuclear reactors or coal or whatever power stations can actually use our waste energy to power turbines in order to do the miners. And I think we touched upon that, but we this could end up with a result of the miners being centralized.
Yeah. So and the thing is, this is exactly what should happen. So you asked before, like, does this happen before? In reality, it does. And this is actually very healthy for any space. This is what should happen in the fiat world that doesn't happen enough. It's this whole boom and bust. And it's not nice, but human beings do get overexcited and we go into stuff and then things break, we go too far, we have to turn it all back, learn from our mistakes, and eventually we get too excited again, we go too far, we have to peg ourselves back. And it's that accountability and that learning that makes a space really robust and much harder to break. And fiat doesn't have that, because every time a government fucks up, they don't have to cut back. They don't have to learn from their mistakes. They just print more money and everyone stays in the job. Governments just get bigger, handouts get bigger, everything just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and less efficient. In Bitcoin, every single time Bitcoin makes a misstep, every time the price goes too high, every time some miners fuck up, they pay. And we have to learn from our mistakes. And then we go again. And the next time we go, we're better than last time. And so this type of accountability and these cutbacks and these big price drawdowns, in reality, all it does is make Bitcoin stronger and more robust. And the people that have been through 3, 4, 5 of these cycles, they're such hardened Bitcoiners, and they know how to run a business throughout these cycles now, that they're probably some of the best business people in the world, because they've gone through these cycles and there's no handouts. There's no one looking to grab your hand if you're sinking in a Bitcoin bear market. You're on your own. There's no handouts. And whereas in the fiat world, if your business is failing, depending on what industry you're in, you could probably go to the government for some type of subsidy, some type of loan. Someone would probably give you a handout at some point. And then you didn't learn, did you? Not really, because each time you make a mistake, you kind of can just get yourself into more debt and keep going. And that leads to all the zombie companies. And
well, the Conservatives, they wanted to take away the banking restrictions, didn't they? After what caused the 2008, and they want to take it as we're just about to fall into this massive recession. So it's kind of going into what you're talking about there, that they put the controls in to stop it happening again, and now they're talking about taking them off again because it's fiat world.
Yeah, we learned from our mistakes. We won't do it again. It's like, you're doing it now, though. Like, you're literally doing it now.
YOLO.
But we'll stop when it gets too far. You're already further than 2008. Stop.
Yeah. Well, again, going back to this, the Great Devaluation audio book, every president has doubled the deficit in terms of the debt deficit of the country. So,
so if they've doubled it, they mean, right, I'm trying to get my thinking right. Is that they've halved the value of the dollar?
No, double debt.
Correct, double the debt.
Dollar denominated terms, so from 10 to 20.
I suppose it's how many dollars in circulation.
Yeah. So they wouldn't have actually doubled it in true form, because the dollar is devaluing as well. So
correct.
Yeah.
If anything, the actual debt probably is staying quite constant. It's just that the dollars is worth less and less and less. So probably still owe in real terms back 100 years. America probably only owe 100 million, but you have to denominate that 100 million as like 7 trillion now, because inflation has devalued the dollar by so much.
You could probably do it by percentage of GDP, so I think it's 130%.
Yeah, and that's the highest it's ever been. That bit, the percent of GDP for America is, I think it took forever for it to get above 50%, It took forever to get above 100. But once you break these limits, they just like, everyone thought it was going to explode. Like you can't have debt higher than your GDP. And then you do it and everyone's looking around going, we haven't exploded. Let's keep going.
Say, but
and they all do it. They
Yeah.
all do it. It's just that we pick on them as, the main culprits. But if we go back to my favourites website of the debt clock, they've all got it. And their numbers are spiraling out of control. Obviously, COVID was a factor, but then it just gave them more and more of a license to print.
Yeah. If anything, like the 2 years of lockdown just got them through all these glass ceilings where you don't think debt can get higher than this. They went, well, it has to now. And it's because of COVID. So they burst through it. Now we're not in COVID at all. No one is trying to get back below those glass ceilings. They're just pushing on and going, we didn't blow up. So let's just keep going. You're going to blow up eventually. You're on a one-way ticket to being worthless. So dangerous game. Talk about being worthless. You move on to Quadriga.
Oh, everyone's favourite. Have either of you watched the documentary on Netflix?
Yeah.
Because we listened to the podcast a year or so ago.
Yeah, at least. Yeah.
And that was really good, but Netflix added in a few more things, didn't it? There's a couple of things about the wife where you went, actually, there's some real big dodginess around her.
Oh yeah. Well, we always knew that anyway, didn't we? Like that was the whole question of, did she really not know that her husband was doing this, and then the way he disappeared, and then the way she was very dodgy, and all the funds moved before. It was always it was hard to pin anything on her. You couldn't pin her. You couldn't, in a court of law, prove she did anything, but your gut feeling goes, she isn't right. She probably knew. And at some point, I think, even my guess, I think, when I said this a year ago, was I wouldn't be surprised if she disappears at some point and she's going to go run off and meet up with her husband again.
Yeah.
Because I don't think he's dead. I think clearly his death was staged, right? There's no body. The death certificate looks dodgy. He was cremated within like 13 minutes of dying. You're like, what the hell's happening here? Like this they were really making sure all like evidence was just completely incinerated, literally. And then, yeah. And now obviously this just confirms, because obviously she says all the keys were with him, right? So he was the only guy that knew all the keys at Quadriga. And as of, Feb 2019, seemingly that was when all this happened, 104 Bitcoin moved on December 17th. And it went straight to Wasabi wallet as well, which is a mixer, right?
Yeah.
So obviously everyone's watching these 5 wallets. There's a known 5 wallets that Quadriga has the funds on. And 104 Bitcoin moved out of one of them, went straight to Wasabi and went for a mixer. So clearly someone's trying to take that Bitcoin out, get it anonymized, and then yonk it onto an exchange and probably sell it for dollars, unfortunately. But yeah, so that proves that she's at the very least, someone's lying. And maybe best case, this guy who founded the exchange that has supposedly been dead for 3 years isn't. And he's back alive.
Money's dried up, wants to splurge in 2023. And that's the thing, isn't it? With this, the transparency of Bitcoin and the ledger. Ultimately, everybody is going to get that itch and that greed, and it's going to move. Apart from Satoshi, we hope. That's when things might really hit the fan. But ultimately, everyone else is just they're too invested in it, and again goes back to greed, doesn't it?
I was reading through the comments on that one, and someone said that a few years ago, as part of an investigation, one for developers was meant to move it, but the Bitcoin went missing during some transfers over to an authority. And I kind of went, but that was never in any of the pods. So I think it's just a pile of bullshit which someone's added in there.
Yeah, that sounds very FTX, doesn't it? It's in that final close down. Also happened on Mt. Gox that the FBI stole some of the funds, so who knows? So it could be anyone, but these 5 wallets were supposedly owned by the founder. He was the only one that supposedly had control. and now suddenly the coins are moving. So the thing is, we'll find out. Like, it depends how stupid they've been. It depends how quickly this alert kind of got fired out. Because if this had happened, because when was this tweet? So this is on December 19th, and the actual transaction happened on December 17th. So it's plausible to go, they have moved it, put it through Wasabi, mixed it, then send it to an exchange. And as we know, Wasabi and stuff, especially when it's a large amount, like 104 Bitcoin, you can get away with 0.1 of a Bitcoin or 1 Bitcoin. That's probably nearly impossible to find out where it went. 104 Bitcoin, you could probably track that through. If the FBI want to sit there for a couple of weeks and go through tens of thousands of Bitcoin transactions, which they will unmix that in some shape or form, find an out transaction somewhere. And if that went to an exchange that's KYC'd, you're fucked. So I would imagine in a couple of weeks' time, we'll be like, Quadriga founder arrested in blah, because he's probably using a KYC exchange somewhere. It'd be crazy to do it in his name. You'd think he'd do it in someone else's name and like some random local that you can trust. But
the chain analysis of this world, the cipher traces of this world, the elliptics of this world, if anything, for me, in 2023, they are going to be, the key players, because they just highlight further and further the fact that you can't get away with these types of things, because there will always be another SBF and FTX and a Quadriga and so forth. But the jig is up, and we've seen it time and time again, haven't we, with others that have tried to move coins.
Yeah, it's one of the things we need to fix in Bitcoin in reality, because you shouldn't be able to do this. You should have your privacy in Bitcoin, because in reality this is worse than a bank account, right? So if I stole a load of money and put it into 5 bank accounts that no one knew, or even if you did know my bank accounts, that I stole a load of money from an exchange and put it into 5 bank accounts around the world, if I move some money from those accounts, no one would know, right? Like the public wouldn't. I guess the FBI or whoever could have alerts set up on those accounts, so they would still kind of find out. But the whole world wouldn't know unless someone made that public. And we need to fix that in Bitcoin, really. We need to get to a point where, because obviously in this instance, we can be, oh yeah, this is good, right? This is good. They're watching these wallets and someone used the money and now they can go find out who it is and arrest the person that stole all this money from all these Canadians. That's good. But if you flip it and go, what if they're watching your wallet and then they've told you that you can't spend money, and then they've locked all your bank accounts, but then your Bitcoin chain moves and they come and arrest you for breaking some court order that says you can't spend money right now. And it's because they track the blockchain. And I'm like, fuck you.
But could you use it for monitoring what the government does with money?
Yeah, if you knew every wallet they had,
but you see all the taxes inflow when you have to pay them, you can actually track where it's going.
In theory, yeah, there's nothing to say that just because I think it's like they already give a lot of transparency around all that, but they just it goes to these various big third-party contractors, and whether it's value or not for money that's where all the corruption is. They just put too much in, don't they?
Yeah,
I don't really think it would fix that much, but unless you had individuals' wallets, but then even then you can just have extra wallets. It's just too easy to hide. I don't think it would fix anything, because if you're going to be corrupt, you're going to be corrupt, right? It's just, I'd have my public-facing wallet over here, and I have 17 back wallets that I get all my payoffs in. If I'm corrupt, I'm corrupt. I'm going to spend a bit of time being good at it. Whereas I saw Nancy Pelosi's fucking net worth the other day. Like, I mean, she just got over 100 million. It's just fucking
only
laughable.
She's a good trader. Just, ultimately, she knows what she's doing.
Oh gosh, she earns like 200 grand a year or something, 300 grand a year, and she's worth 100 mil. Like,
since she moved to being the speaker in something like 2002 or 2009, she's gone from having a net worth of a couple of million to 200 million. It's ridiculous.
it's literally hilarious, like how corruption really, really pays. Yeah.
And everyone knows, but even when they're questioned, they just laugh it off, don't they?
Yeah, it's almost like it's such a meme now. They go, we don't even have to answer it. It doesn't matter. People just are switched off. It's like if you get caught once, it's bad, but if you get caught 100 times, like, oh fuck it, there you go.
Is it because she's old and we're just like, yeah, silly Nancy?
No, Democrats care about everyone, so she must be doing it because she cares a lot.
Right. Next, we are moving on to the OG Bitcoin dev. Luke Dash Jr. loses 200 plus Bitcoin in a hack.
Yeah, so this broke on January 1st. I only saw it yesterday, but yeah, so he's gone out saying his PGP key is compromised, which essentially is the key that sits inside your hardware wallet that most people don't deal with. Clearly, he's a developer. He doesn't use hardware wallets. He uses his own security through software. And and so the Bitcoin got taken out bit by bit from his wallet. He bizarrely put all this on Twitter, right? So we link all to it. All the stories are linked. But he tags in the FBI saying, I can't reach anyone, and then he follows up going, never mind, it's all gone now. And somehow in the replies, they're going, how the hell did you have 200 Bitcoin in a hot wallet? And he replies going, no, they got my cold wallet too, somehow. So it's very strange. If this was anyone else, right, I would say they're an idiot. They don't understand Bitcoin. And somehow their private key or their backup words have been leaked and someone's just put it into their own ledger and moved it all off. But this is like Luke Dash Jr. is one of the highest contributing Bitcoin developers to Bitcoin. He's in the top 10 developers that have worked on Bitcoin. If anyone knows the technical background of Bitcoin, people like Luke, they are your guy. Yeah? I think SegWit was one of his biggest contributions. He was the lead developer on SegWit, which enabled a lot of the Lightning and Taproot stuff that we've built since. His comments in here, I honestly thought it was a fake account. Someone was pretending to be him. This didn't sound like him. I don't get it. It's bizarre.
Yeah. Because he's not just any old pleb, is he? I mean, ultimately, he's got 200 plus. Bitcoin.
So his wallet's on his desktop, or he's not using cold storage. I mean, he later claims that he was. It's just a bit fishy, isn't it? I've seen lots of activity about this. People saying, is he compromised? Is he being bought out? So they can say, oh, it's even happened to a Bitcoin developer. You shouldn't trust it.
I don't think he's doing it for clout.
Oh, no. He's not that type of guy. He's very religious. He's got like 9 kids. And
Jeez.
Yeah, he's one of these guys, right? He's weighed in on the abortion debate a few times, and his line on abortion, he is so anti-abortion, right? He includes masturbation and sex with contraception as murder, because a kid could have been conceived with that, and you should always have sex with the idea to conceive. He is that nuts when it comes to that stuff. He literally thinks having a wank is murder. So he can be weird, like very weird, but I've always excused him by going, look, he's eccentric. He's a bit weird. He's probably on the spectrum somehow, but he's a fucking shit hot developer. So I don't need to go for a beer with this guy. I don't think I would like to go for a beer with this guy, but he's fucking good when it comes to coding for Bitcoin. But his explanation around all this is just so confused, right? Because he goes, oh, they got my cold wallet. they're like, it doesn't sound like a cold wallet then if your keys were on your computer connected to the internet, or am I misunderstanding this? And he goes, they weren't supposed to be. I agree, they must have been somehow. You go, well, he doesn't even know what a cold wallet is then. Because a cold wallet, the definition is that it's cold, right? Cold is off from the internet. Someone needs to get the backup words or the private key that you have stored somewhere and not on that device. So, and he's going, oh no, my key got hacked. They took the hot wallet. And then somehow his cold wallet was also attached to the internet. So they took that as well. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe one of the most rational explanations here is maybe Luke is wrecked. Maybe he is skint and he's looking for some handouts from the Bitcoin community and faking a hack or something. I don't know, because he's one of the most technically competent people that I would in Bitcoin. So this is just bizarre for him. And it started off a load of people being very scared
also,
that were ledgers hacked. Were like, what the hell's going on here?
If he's got hundreds of Bitcoin, he wouldn't just have them on a single cold wallet, would he?
No, this isn't all his Bitcoin, he says. He's lost many Bitcoins, but not most of it. So he alludes to having a lot more than this. But it's a substantial loss from this one area. This isn't always Bitcoin.
I'm just reading through some of his tweets, and yeah, I hear everything you're saying. He does seem.
I've had a lot of arguments with him during COVID and lockdown. He was a massive believer. At one point,
believer of COVID.
Yeah,
and lockdowns. To me,
he didn't believe in lockdowns necessarily. But he did believe COVID was extremely dangerous. He's been disinfecting his food for like God knows how long. Desperately
he just had, I think, COVID again just before Christmas, and he's asking the public where he can buy home kits from.
Yeah,
preferably at a good price. I'll need 10 or so. Yeah, and I'm just like, wow, okay, dude.
Yeah, he's a massive COVID account. I unfollowed him for quite a while during all that. To be fair to him, he doesn't block. It's one thing I'd say for him. I've had a lot of heated debates with him about this. He's the guy, I don't know if you saw it, but he went to the last Bitcoin Miami and he was the guy in the fucking gas mask, refusing to take it off because he didn't want to get COVID.
Yeah, I do remember. I didn't know it was him. Okay, cool.
Yeah. But anyway, so it's big though, right? And it scared a lot of people because people suddenly thought, shit, if like has Bitcoin security been compromised? Because if Luke Dash Jr. has got his Bitcoin stolen from a cold wallet, then his Bitcoin's hash security being hacked. Is SHA-256 still secure? And it is. It's all fine. It's just either Luke has made a really stupid error, or he's been targeted. And it wouldn't surprise me if someone has targeted him and he's been talking to someone on Twitter or he's been emailing someone. Because if I was going to scam Luke, I would go in through the religious angle. And then I would just send him something, some type of attachment that he wanted to open that was attached to a completely different topic that I think he's going to really like, and then attach some malware to that. And it wouldn't surprise me if that's what's happened, because he's obviously a very high profile person who is known to be being in Bitcoin for a decade. So he's got a shit ton of Bitcoin lying around, and whoever's probably targeted him, they've got off with 200 Bitcoin. So congrats. It would teach him a big lesson to not be opening up dumbass attachments on the machine that you got 200 Bitcoin lying around on.
Yeah.
Which he should have already known that. But
maybe he was thinking, I don't go out, so I don't have anything to worry about.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. The scammers out there as well, they really do a lot to build trust, and could have been speaking to him for years and then finally just drop that attachment in 2 years later. And that's the one he opens that has a bit of malware on it. So yeah, it is scary though. It's a lesson to everyone to go, be wary. If it can happen to Luke, it can happen to fucking anyone.
Yeah. It was our favorite piece last year, Inflation Corner, and guess what? It's returning back for 2023. So Inflation Weekly, we are now covering the fact that the US is at it again. $1.7 trillion of spending towards wars, surveillance tech, and convincing kids that there are more than two genders. Now, I can actually read this article because it was blocked on my laptop and I wasn't reading and catching up in terms of the research on my phone. But do you want to cover this one?
Everything's fine.
I'll give you-
Any hyperinflation after this is down to the inflation dragon.
And the inflation dragon is exactly.
So my understanding about this, what do they call these things in the US? There's some silly name for it.
What do you mean?
When they basically say we're going to spend all this fucking money, here's
Stimulus.
no, they've got some silly ass name for it where they go, oh, we're going to call it or whatever, a bill.
Yeah,
And they just
Okay.
and it's basically a way of siphoning out money out of people's pockets.
the Patriot Act and
Yeah. So from what I've read, they actually produced this and then voted on it pretty much in less than a day.
yeah,
So
4,155 pages.
So you'd have to read, what was it, 4 pages a minute?
On the rest.
And all the senators voted for it, didn't they? So this was
Who the
Republicans
hell
and Democrats
actually
voted for it.
writes that? Who do you think writes it?
Yeah, but the thing is, like, how can you vote for something which you can't possibly have read?
Yeah.
Like that's literally, they're not even trying.
No, but that's the thing, like, it's just corruption in plain sight, isn't it? They just they put these bills forward. I think the same thing happened with the infrastructure bill. That's what it's called. That was during COVID, and they tried to vote that one through really fast. And that was the 7 trillion one, and that all got voted on super quick, got passed. And then in the end, they had to go back on it and go, look, inflation's already getting out of control. And they actually walked that one back somewhat. But this is a different version of it. And they've passed it through in exactly the same way. And it's not 7 trillion, it's 1.7. But
well, as long as they're spending 65 million on salmon, everything's fine.
It's just, when you go through it, you just go, is anyone going to even ask? Yeah, like what's the 65 million on salmon? Because it's when you said, oh, we could have all these blockchain addresses. It's like, okay, there'd be a blockchain address here, like a Bitcoin address for 65 million for salmon. And it goes off to the salmon guy. And you go, hold on. Like, they've written this in the bill, but should we be giving the salmon guy 65 million? Probably not.
I think there was 1.2 million for Michelle Obama. There was 3 million for bee-friendly highways. I don't know how a bee is protected from a highway. If a bee hits a windscreen,
Michelle
the bee is
Obama,
dying.
by the way?
Sorry?
Why Michelle Obama?
Oh, it's some kind of like charity thing, so she can siphon money into their pockets.
Yeah, it makes sense now.
You got 65 million here for a building named after Nancy Pelosi.
And it's not a prison. What's really interesting is it's said in the bill that nothing is to be spent on the border in the US, but they are allowed to spend money on the borders in Jordan, Lebanon, Egypt, Tunisia, and Oman.
Why America is just so keen to let as many immigrants run into their country as possible?
Well, why do you think so one of the problems with inflation is it caused higher wages, and they're going, the higher wages are the issue. So what counts as higher wages?
Well, illegal immigration that
exactly, and also
doing the work that others won't do for a cheaper price. And
exactly. And you kind of got those people they're trying to take out rungs. They're getting paid too much, so all these people move up one rung, and therefore inflation goes down because the wages cost less. That is the whole point behind Keynesian theory.
And
Like literally,
suddenly we realize why they hated Trump and that wall so much. Because they needed those immigrants to get in. Trump was going to stop that free, cheap labor
and
and
also
and
in the
expose
bill,
the fact that America can't afford to pay for the jobs that it needs.
Yeah.
they doubled the visas for low skilled workers as well.
Mm.
So nothing's
They know what's coming.
those two are literally bringing loads of people, get the wages down because they're the problem. The people who want to be paid more so they can actually afford to live the same standard of living before they diluted the money are the issue, not the fact that we've diluted the money.
47 billion to Ukraine.
Gender programs for Pakistan, always important. They need to know their pronouns over there.
3 million for an LGBTQ museum in New York.
335 million to prepare for flu using surveillance tools.
It's like they're just picking random numbers.
1.4 billion for the UN and similar like-minded organisations. Do the WEF fit in there? Does Klaus get some?
Oh yeah, Klaus would definitely be getting his pay.
And I think as well, the person who printed Marty, he alluded to some other tweets which are around misinformation and control of Twitter, saying this is a type of funding which is coming in, because I think it was 1.3 billion for FBI. So there's been some Twitter files released. Obviously, Elon I still can't get my head around what he's doing, unless he's just suicidal. But they've released ones about the fact the fact that the secret services of the US were creating misinformation on Twitter, and they knew who all the bots were and still did nothing.
Yeah, his next one, someone went release the Fauci files, and Elon replied, going, "That's next week." So I don't know if he's trolling and all that stuff, but
it's never going to be too bad on the social networks. It's just about throttling of information, so you'll never really find out the ins and outs. But the stuff which they've done is pretty bad, but it's not.
Awful. It confirms all the conspiracy theorists that when we're being silenced, it's not fair. They don't know the truth. This isn't misinformation. This is the facts. It's just all being confirmed. And yeah, we've got 335 million in this bill to prepare for a influenza pandemic. Yeah, 15 million for Vax Injury Trust Fund.
It's been increased by 10 or 15%, which is really interesting.
Yeah, 15%. It's normally 13 million for vax injuries. Now it's 15 million, which I guess that's just up with inflation. That number should be 10x really, because it does have a caveat in there actually saying or sums as necessary to be authorized for that, which is a nice caveat where they are expecting.
With all this, there's going to be angles where they're pulling money out or it's going to their friends. Like, this isn't designed so they can just spend a fuckload of money to make themselves look good. It's the fact they can pull out little bits of money, and there's all these different things like that. 65 million for salmon, guaranteed like 10% will be going to someone who's helped vote this
well, it'll be a catering company, which no doubt they are a shareholder in.
Mm. Exactly.
The only line you got to look at is 47 billion for Ukraine. Well, that's just such a huge amount of money that you just go, that feeds everyone. Like, who wants 10 million? Like, everyone can have 10 mil out of that, and no one even notices.
Yeah. It's just such a big number, and it's just a blanket statement, isn't it?
Just helping Ukraine, like
Ukraine.
What? Like,
don't forget, we need gender programs in Pakistan.
Why the fuck are America bothered about that? It's like, we're not.
It almost sounds like they're trying to destabilize them.
Yeah, it's like, fuck them up. And we heard you're doing well. Have some gender studies.
You're sounding a bit like a racist. But yeah, really, really interesting to have a read through that. Good article. It's from our friend Marty. So I think we came across him the previous show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where he, what was it which he talked talked everyone through? It was FTX and the sentencing.
Yeah, Martin Shecker.
No,
So he's
that's Martin Screlly. This is Marty Bent. Two different.
Ah, okay.
oh, what do we have Marty Bent on? We had him for something else.
Yeah, he was on last week because you couldn't read the link again. Lightning's getting more features last week.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's on it a lot. It's just that, yeah.
Did you see the follow-up as well of I know we're not going to talk about it, but we are going to talk about it because it then links into the next story, where he was interviewed for a second time by Laura Shin.
No.
Martin Screlly.
And
Yeah,
Martin Screlly was interviewed by she. Was that good?
Yeah, basically, it was a follow-up interview to the first interview because at first he was just like, "There's no way he's getting bail," and then lo and behold, he got bail.
Ah, right, yeah, because he forgot that he was Martin Screlly and SPF couldn't be different cases really. He looked at it as in, oh, these are the crimes we committed, but he forgot the killer factor, which is Martin Screlly had gone fuck off to the establishment. SBF was sucking them off.
Yeah.
So, of course, the rules are different. SBF is part of the elite. Martin Screlly was doing two fingers to the elite. So he got the harshest sentence possible, no bail, no nothing, and got the harshest sentence for a minor crime. Whereas obviously SBF is on the other side. So, of course, he got bail. Of course, he's going to get privacy. Of course, he's not going to spend hardly any time in prison. And you'll get the most lenient sentence he possibly can. Because this is the one factor that Martin didn't factor in was the conspiracy theory element of, yeah, but he's mates with them. So,
have you seen that the people who paid his bail, the names have been redacted, two of them?
Yeah, it's probably his parents, isn't it?
Well, why did they redact the parents' name?
They're a bit weird.
But I thought the parents were always on there, and it was because they put their home up for bail, and then there was two others.
I wonder if it's Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, probably is something like
George Soros.
Yeah.
Joe Biden. But
yeah.
But he put a story in about Caroline.
Ooh, bit of FTX.
Caroline.
Yeah.
We're still waiting for our hot sex tape.
Well, I put this in because I think it was on the angle of what SBF may go down the route of in terms of she's just simply a woman scorned, following from the hot sex tape that we made, which she openly indulged in. and therefore she doesn't want me to release that tape, and she's making all of this up, and therefore he's going to plead not guilty.
Oh no!
Which is apparently his plea. Yeah,
he's in court today.
Yeah, he's going to be pleading not guilty apparently.
Yeah, actually, it doesn't surprise me at all. Actually, yeah, because it ties in with all his interviews where he just went, "Oh, I'm not a developer. Oh, I wasn't managing the risk." I was like, hold on, 5 minutes ago you were the world-class developer that was an expert in risk and trading. So
my question about this one, about Caroline singing like a bird, is she was only at Alameda for a couple of months, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Like, she's this big name, but she was a patsy. Yeah. So, everyone's saying, oh, should she have got bail? And, it's going to be really light on her. But she's only there for a couple of months. She was put in to get that line to Gary Gensler, and also just to take the fall as well. She, and so she was never going to get anything harsh. But one thing which I did read in this, which made it really interesting, is it said there's some kind of clause about being a US citizen. So she has renounced her citizenship. She'll just be shipped out once this is over and banned from the US.
Ooh.
That must be part of her, because obviously it says she's reached a plea agreement. So she's just told all in exchange for being let off, I would imagine, for immunity. But yeah, if that is also dissolve your US citizenship. But that's pretty big for someone who's very pally with the US elite.
Yeah, with good old GG.
So basically, to avoid prison time, all you need to agree is never to come back to the US.
And tell on all your mates, basically. Just
I wonder if the FBI got to see the sex tape as part of it.
The only person that usually isn't allowed to do that would be the top guy, so it'd be SPF. Like you're not allowed to tell all. You can't get immunity because you're the fucking top guy who did everything. But
surely she is the reason why he got arrested eventually.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, weirdly, like we had it on here just as a little gossip column, didn't we? Where it was about 2 or 3 weeks ago. She was seen in a coffee shop 3 streets away from the FBI building, and everyone went, "She's down here spilling all." And it turns out she absolutely was. She was doing her plea agreement with the FBI, and she gave enough evidence to obviously give them confidence to go get SPF. But we know it doesn't really matter because as we know, like Caroline doesn't really know anything. It's the previous CEO that knows everything, and so she what she's told them is probably just a load of if buts and maybes, hard to evidence. And he's going to go, "That wasn't me. I outsourced that to this guy." And it's going to be one of those things, isn't it? Where I don't know how much you've watched these true crime things where like sometimes there'll be a group of kids and one of the kids will end up dying. The best form of defense, if you're ever in that situation, is to admit that it happened, but all of you point a finger at someone else. And the police now need to go, we fucking know these 5 kids did it, but they're all saying each other did it. No one's fucking putting a hand up. And the problem is they need one person to go, who pulled the trigger? Because we can't prosecute you all for murder. We need to know which one. If you all point the finger at each other, it's very hard to figure out actually who did it. And I think that's going to be SPF's defense, which will be, who made it that the code was insecure and a load of money got stolen? Him. That was him down there. Who did the risk and how lent all this money to Almeida? That was him over there. Who did all the property buying? That was he's just going to point the finger at everyone. They're going to point the finger at someone else, and they're going to be left with who the fuck was in control of this thing, and can we prove within reasonable doubt that SPF knowingly did all these things? And they're going to get to a point where there's enough reasonable doubt in there, he's going to get off the big charges.
I still struggle with this one because he loaned himself $1 billion. His parents bought property empire for 200 million on, like a joint salary of like 200 grand. What else have we got in there? We've got a few definites. So I think
if you had to put your money on it, right? So when we watch Skrelly go through it, he's on the hook, guaranteed for life, right? He hit the score of life. Do you think he's going to get life? No. See, I know. So you're on the same page because it's like we know he's going to get off.
It's one of those things like he should go down.
Yeah, and he shouldn't have got bail. He's a clear flight risk.
Yeah.
Right? How much of a flight risk is SPF? He's got to be.
Could you see him running down the street with his fat ass and his little backpack and his big ass titties swinging around everywhere?
Yeah, it's the fact that he could have run straight away from the very outset, though.
Yeah, well, technically, he should have just moved from Barbados, but like we knew, like a real criminal would have.
Yeah.
But when you're pals with the elite, you're just going, well, no, I'll just. And I think in reality, he probably thought he'd paid off the Barbados government and regulators enough.
Yeah.
They put, but then he didn't realize that the US have bigger pockets than even him, and they still got him. But once he gets there, we know that there's probably good people working on that case, like really good people. We've seen this before. We've seen this in many banking frauds and big government fraud that happens. The key prosecutors that come through here are really good guys. They really want justice. but they end up getting replaced, and they'll get replaced with some very, very high up government official, prosecutor, and they'll come in and they'll just go soft on them. And they'll just go, what the fuck happened there? I wanted prison time for that banker or that politician, and I was replaced, and the administration gazumped me, and their prosecutor came in and let him off. That will happen.
The judge is 79 as well, so I also think he's on borrowed time.
Yeah, it'll be the prosecutor. Watch out for the prosecutor. I can guarantee the person that prosecutes SBF will be a patsy as well. He'll be one of the inside crew that will just go easy on him.
Just go easy on him.
We said we don't want to spend too much time on FTX, so do we want to move on? Because we are kind of going into the conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
Got 2 stories left. So moving on from FTX to FDIC. Another scandal.
Yeah. Well, it's just a really good tweet from someone called the blockchain chick, Heidi. But if you think FTX scandal was bad, wait until you hear about the FIDC, which insures $9 trillion worth of assets with deposits of $125 billion. So for anyone that doesn't know, the FIDC is there who insure your 85 grand worth of deposits in any bank account, or $100,000 worth of assets in any bank account or financial institution anywhere. Everyone is told, look for FIDIC insurance on your bank account, because if that bank was to go bust, they would refund up to 85K in any bank account. So if you've got 10, 20, 2K in an account, the saying is that your risk is zero, because even if that bank goes bust, you have insurance that will pay out and give you your money back. Now, I've said numerous times on this pod that insurance is not worth the paper it's written on. There's no way that if the banking system collapses, that insurance is not fucking paying out. There's just no way. And I didn't realize it was this bad. But if you just round these numbers up a little bit and go, let's just say there's 10 trillion and they have deposits of 100 billion. It's essentially, it's less than 1%. They have less than 1% of the assets they're insuring. That's what they have on hand. So if these people need to pay out, if these banks go bust, you will get a maximum of 1% back, because they don't have the funds to pay back. And this is a scandal right in front of our face, right? This is the same as FTX sitting there saying they're worth 32 billion. And in reality, they have assets that are just worth less than 1 billion. And then suddenly everyone goes to get their money.
Again?
Could they print 9 trillion out of thin air? Potentially. But the problem is they'd have to give it all to the FIDC. So yeah, this is what they did in 2008, right? In 2008, they knew the insurance wouldn't pay out, so they just printed the money and gave it to the banks. So yeah, the get out of jail free card for government always is they just print it. So you're hoping for a government bailout, because the insurance, which they tells you insures you, clearly doesn't. They don't have the money to pay out. So the only option would be money printing. It would be a government bailout, because the insurance is not worth the paper it's written on.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if your bank is FDIC insured or not. All that matters is when the time comes and your bank goes bust, because it will, does the government give it money? If it does, then it'll be fine again for another couple of years. Who knows how long?
It's just another. It's another. You can class it as a crack or a chasm within the fiat system, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you're just going, how the hell does this even exist?
Yeah, and people would tell you, like, I think we even had it as a story on here that Coinbase got FDIC insured, and we went, that's good. And I remember saying, it's not worth the paper it's written on. Like, if these companies go bust, they ain't paying out. They haven't got any money. Who are they paying out?
I guess the fact that it would be a bigger Ponzi scheme if people were actually paying into it. So if you paid for some sort of insurance,
well, you are with your taxes.
Yeah. Where do you think the money comes from? Yeah.
So this is literally just government going, because we're so nice, because we're so great to you, we're going to put insurance on. It's like the what's it? always forget what it's called in the UK. Is it FCA or is it FSA?
FSA.
Yeah, we've got insurance in the UK because the government's so nice and we love you, all of you. Just continue paying your taxes and don't worry, we'll look after you. And we're giving you free gifts. We'll give you free benefits.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's there. All right. Last one.
Yeah,
Shitcoin corner. So this isn't an exchange which I heard of.
No.
I mean, where are Paxful based? I mean, which countries do they service?
US.
So it just sounds, I don't know, is it a publicity stunt or is it just someone who actually is a maxi just going, fuck it?
Yeah, it's probably a bit of both, but it's good just to see it, right? It's just good to see that Paxful clearly, they've got 10 million customers they claim, and they fell into that trap of going, we're exchange, we're Bitcoiners, but there's a lot of money in shitcoins, so we're going to list Ethereum, and then once you start going down that road, then you start going, well, if Ethereum's legit, then some of the biggest shitcoins that are run on Ethereum should also be legit, and before you know it, you're a shitcoin casino. And he's just gone, nah, let's just stop. We're not going to list shitcoins, and we're not going to list ETH either, and we're going to, in fact, take ETH off the platform and become Bitcoin only. And so maybe it is a bit of a publicity stunt, but it's great. This is the type of stunt you should be doing because it's going to attract good Bitcoiners that are going to be there forever with you. This is just as banks try and get you to sign up when you're 16, 17, because they know once you have a bank, you have a bank for life. People rarely change bank accounts. This will be the same with exchanges where you're DCAing into Bitcoin. Whoever is your first exchange, there's a very strong likelihood is that you build up your habits and your behaviors all around that exchange. You'll do the same with your wallets. You'll do the same with your hardware wallets. And if you can get into the behaviors and the habits of Bitcoiners, then you're good. You're good for decades because they won't change. Because why change if it works? And so that's what he's trying. And I hadn't heard of Paxful either. Now I have. If I was American, I'd probably go check them out. But it's just another one of to get rid of shit coins. We need more and more Bitcoin only exchanges because I want more and more places to send people to buy Bitcoin and not be distracted with shit coins all in their face. And
I think it's good though. I don't know if they'll continue doing it. I think because they make the money off the shit coins and obviously the trading of shit coins.
You think you go back?
Yeah, because in this bear market, they need to get it wherever they can get it.
Yeah, the thing is though, at the moment, there's no money in shit coins.
No
one's buying shit coins right now.
True.
The other one I see over Twitter is it Swan Bitcoin?
Yeah.
Yeah, Swan Bitcoin.
They seem to be only Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Bitcoin.
But they're for institutions.
No, they're not. They're for both.
Yeah, because I follow the guy
DCA
who runs it, and he just dunks on shitcoins all the time.
Yeah, they ran an event actually. I think it was last week called Pacific Bitcoin.
Okay.
Yeah, no, Swan Bitcoin is definitely probably one of the leading ones in America. I keep pestering them, asking them when they're coming to Europe and coming to UK. And
so would you, if there was a Bitcoin exchange, and I know that you're probably quite comfortable with Coinbase, but would you move if it was just Bitcoin only?
Oh yeah. And to be fair, there are some in UK now. What's it called? It's called CoinFloor or.
Yes, there is. Yeah, a UK exchange which is Bitcoin only.
Yeah, there is one.
I'm sure, as you love to call him, Pedro interviewed him not so long ago.
Yeah, Coin Corner.
Yes, that's the one.
Got Danny Scott as the CEO.
Yeah.
So, I do have an account there, and but yeah, I haven't fully moved over my Bitcoin buying to them yet, but I should really, because Corner are a perfect example. But that's what I mean by how like it's so like habits, right? I've got all my security lined up in Coinbase. I've got everything whitelisted. I know when I send money there and I buy my Bitcoin and it only takes 10 minutes and I've got it all off. I know even if someone got into my account in Coinbase, I know they can't do shit because I've got certain Bitcoin addresses whitelisted. All they can do is send it out to that address. If you want to add another address, it like I've set it to the longest setting, so it like takes like 2 weeks to get another address whitelisted, and I'm in there whenever there's money in that account. I'm fucking there. So if someone else gets in and tries to send it to a different address, it will be in holding for 2 weeks. They're the kind of things, right, that I just know I'm safe. So even though I am kind of funding a shitcoin casino, it comes to, but I also know I'm safe by my Bitcoin. So
yeah,
and I don't know if Coin Corner have those types of things. Yeah, I'd be worried about their security. There's a certain safety that comes with size, and Coinbase is so huge that I go, and I've used them for so long, and it's always worked. I've never been hacked. So even though they are shitcoin. But yeah, that's it, isn't it?
I think that is it. That's everything covered for this week in the world of Bitcoin. Last year, of course, we did price predictions in terms of where we thought that the end of the year Bitcoin would end up. None of us got it right. We never thought that we would be here. Do we want to try and do it again? This is pod 80. Therefore, we'll review at the end of the financial year, which is obviously from a US perspective.
We need to
December.
keep a note. We need to keep an easy note of where we think we'll be. I'm going to go for £75,000.
Okay.
Nice. That's pretty much 100K in dollars, then, isn't it? Roughly. Maybe just below.
I'm going to go for at the end of the year, I'll go 50,000 pounds.
In pounds. So that's nearly bang on all-time high then. So $69,000.
Yeah.
We hit 51, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
So that's back
I
to
feel like I'm being with it. I feel like I'm being a bit bearish.
No, I
think I actually don't know what's going to get us back up there. I actually think that we won't be there at the end of the year, but we'll touch that price again, but we won't go higher.
I think the fact that the US is still printing, I think the fact that we're seeing adoption of South America, we're starting to see other countries start to dip their toes in. I just see these little bits actually getting some actual proper traction rather than just speculation this time.
Yeah, I think we've all seen the charts, right? So it's 3 years of up, 1 of down. Last year was the down. So the odds are this is going to be a big up year.
Or we break the records and we go down again.
Yeah. Bitcoin does like surprising us. It'd be big. I mean, that would be the biggest surprise if Bitcoin ends this year lower than it did last year. That would be huge.
What do we end on?
Test people's metal.
It's about 13.3 or something like that in pounds.
Yeah.
If it's below that, that'd be huge.
I think I'll be selling my children if it goes below 10.
Yeah,
it's on record now.
According to this, it's 13.9 right now. Maybe I don't know what exchange that is. Might be a bit wrong. But yeah, what would my guess be? I'd probably be most bearish. I'd say $50,000, which would be about 35K in pounds. Okay. So what's that? A double up in a bit.
Yeah, I don't think none of us are particularly bullish about this.
Well, no, because the thing is, like, what you need to be able to be hugely bullish is be confident that the collapse into the year is done. and then the rebuild is happening, and I'm not confident. I think fiat has a long way to go yet. So as fiat continues to collapse, in reality, it's going to drag Bitcoin with it. But do I think it's going to continue going down? I don't. I think Bitcoin's towards. Well, actually, I do think Bitcoin will drop to 10K probably this year. Then
we're going to
sink
into the first proper recession since Bitcoin was invented as well. Like we've been claiming that we haven't, but obviously we've been in it for about, what is it, a quarter or more. But we haven't really hit the slam down yet. Like we haven't, the bottom hasn't dropped out yet.
No, I'm not even. No, yeah, it's going to be an interesting year because it's just going to be the real test of Bitcoin, right? This is so far we've had don't know how many podcasts you listen to about the macro environment, but we've been in a bull market for 40 years when it comes to the overall macro environment. So a lot of us in our entire lifetimes have never experienced a proper recession, not a real one, not an extended long period. We've all had the odd year here or there, but these little crashes have recovered so quick and then gone to all-time highs super fast. These breakdowns have just been more opportunity to earn money. That's all that's really happened. But having a proper recession that lasts for a decade or more, that is where people lose their money, lose jobs, suicide rates go up. The real recessions, that is potentially what we're going into now. So we haven't ever experienced that in our lifetimes, and Bitcoin definitely hasn't. So this is what Bitcoin was here for. This is the flight to safety. This is going to be its real test. Do people sell their fiat assets and jump into Bitcoin, or do they go down on the ship?
Again, I'll reference it once more. If it was to happen, I don't think it will be in this year. But the great devaluation said the 2025 to 2027 that it would happen. But obviously, it's a build-up. It doesn't necessarily just come overnight.
Yeah, it sounds about right. It's annoying because in my mind, I just want Bitcoin to go to the moon now. But
yeah,
I do think we're probably looking. Yeah, the recession needs to happen properly, and I think it probably is like 2027 until people really have felt so much pain through inflation. Correct. And through just the government authoritarianism that they look for an option out. And even then it won't be until 2030 till we start seeing some proper like momentum. So yeah, maybe we're gonna have to hodl on and be a bit more patient than we wanted to. But the thing is, like, whenever I make a prediction that's like 7 years out, it probably means it's gonna happen fucking tomorrow. So who knows? I'd always just stack sats, as much fiat as you can get into Bitcoin, get it in. Don't wait for the price to drop. That's another thing actually that I saw people doing. Like, oh, don't buy Bitcoin now, wait for the dip, it's going below 10K. Don't do any of that bullshit, just DCA. We don't know.
Yeah.
All it takes is one big country, one extra billionaire to suddenly start DCAing in, and the price can be over 100K freaking so quick. We saw it. It's happened so many times. And it will nearly always happen when everything is set up for it not to be right. A massive bug will be found in Bitcoin. Some key developers will leave. We're going, holy shit, Bitcoin is done. And then suddenly the price will double in 2 hours. And we're like, what the fuck? And before you know it, we're at 200K going, life is gravy. And it will come out of nowhere and everyone will miss it. So don't try and be clever. But I think we're probably going to have to be patient. So I think the next couple of years are going to be patient years, personally.
Stack and stack some more, because I do think once it does go to that figure, it won't be coming back down to an accessible figure for people to be able to get in.
Not for a whole coin, anyway.
No, yeah, that's what I mean, for a whole coin.
Yeah, cool. Coin. Get your whole coin now in the next couple of years. Get a whole coin.
There we have it. That's probably the most positive that we've been on the entire pod for this evening. Start the year off as we mean to go on. Continue to listen. Don't share. Don't like. Don't subscribe. Don't comment. and just come here to slit your wrists and listen to us drone on for 2 hours. This has been Pod 80, brought to you by Mr. All-In, aka the $1 Trillion Man, Dr. Evil 10%, aka the People's Champ, myself, Sir Neverlook, aka the Excellence of Execution, and she feels that it's so shit that she doesn't even turn up. She's been doing that since the beginning of the pod, Mrs. No Show. So, do as she does. Peace out.